The Purim story is no secret. We all know Haman stood up to try to annihilate all Jews, to try to destroy the Jewish nation. And through the intervention of Mordechai and Esther, and obviously with Hashem's help, it was able to be overturned. The Jews were able to defend themselves, and ultimately ended up pulling off a miraculous victory. And as the Megillah tells us, Al Kain, therefore, Karu la Yama Ele Purim al Shem Hapur Hu HaGeirel. The Jews established a holiday which is called Purim, and it comes from the root word pur, which in Persian means raffle, and in Hebrew means a geirel, hinting to the raffles that Haman made, on which month and which day the Jews were to be annihilated, chas v'shalom. And therefore we celebrate by remembering that raffle which never came to be. However, if you think about it, it seems odd that this is actually the only Yom Tov, this is the only holiday on our calendar that has its name based after the plot. Its name is based after something negative. The Yom Tov of Pesach is centered around the idea of bringing the Karban Pesach, on how we shechted the animals, the blood on the doorpost, Hashem passed over us. All amazing things that Hashem did for us. The Yom Tov of Sukkot is how in the desert we had our own huts, we had our own sukkahs. You can look at Hanukkah, where the whole idea of Hanukkah is how we celebrated on the 25th day of Kislev. We rededicated the Beis HaMikdash. Purim is the only Yom Tov that's name represents the negative part of the story. The lots, the raffles that Haman made on when he would destroy the Jews. And really, why is that? What's more interesting is that as Yidden, as Jews who believe in Hashem, we know Hashem has a part in just about everything we do. Hence, every single paper we write, we have either Beis HaMachdalid, or Beis Hey, or BH. On the top of every paper, we make some sort of notice to remind us that everything is done with the blessing and assistance of Hashem. But yet somehow, some way, in one of the Sifrei Tanakh, one of the holy Sfarim, one of the books that are part of the Torah, does not have Hashem's name appear once in the entire Megillah. We make sure to put Hashem's name on a piece of paper, but we can't get it into one of the books in the Torah? What's going on? The answer actually lies in the name of the Sefer itself. Megillas Esther is what it's called. If you take those two words, Megillas Esther, you find a very interesting contradiction, because the word Megillah comes from the root word of Giloi, revelation. The word Esther comes from the root word Hesteres, concealments. So just like that, in the name of the Megillah, we have a contradiction of being revealed and being concealed. But explains the Rebbe, that is exactly what Purim was. The idea of Purim is that when Haman made a decree to destroy the Jews, which was the worst decree in our nation's history up until that point, there has never been a decree that was on one day with nowhere to run, nowhere to go, to kill men, women, and children. Yet when the Yidden heard this decree, instead of using the diplomatic connections that they had, which were again one of the best in our nation's history, Esther was the queen, Mordechai was the top official, the Jews were wealthy, they were equal. They could have used their political and diplomatic connections to intervene, to overturn it, to help fix it. But yet they didn't. Mordechai encouraged everybody to daven to Hashem. Esther told Mordechai to tell the Jews to fast, to pray. And the reason for this was the Jews knew that the reason that this decree came on them was because of their sins, was because they lacked and they threw away God's protection by going to the feast, by telling Hashem, nature's good now, the system of nature is helping us, so we don't need that supernatural protection. Now when this decree comes, they realize what they did wrong, and they knew that the solution to overturning the decree was through connecting to Hashem, through Torah, through davening. They realized the point of what Purim is all about, that through the Esther, there is Megillah. Through the concealments, through the nature, is where Hashem has a part in just about everything. That explains why the Yom Tov is called Purim. Not even a Hebrew word. It represents a time that when we're in Gullus, when we're dealing with the world, when we're taking the world's challenges as they come, we can't forget that Hashem is involved in just about everything. Even when you don't see Hashem's name, you have to know that He's always there and He's always watching. And we have to take His protection. We can't throw that protection away. That is why the Megillah didn't have Hashem's name. That is why the Yom Tov is called the name of Purim, a non-Hebrew word that focuses on the plot. That is why the name of the Sefer that we read, Megillas Esther, is the way it is. It represents that when we're in the darkest places, when we're in the other languages, when we're in Gullus, when we have our challenges, when we can't see Hashem's name clearly, you have to know and believe that it's with you right now, stronger than ever. With this mindset, we can overcome just about any obstacle we make. And no matter how great our physical life may be, we have to know that that's not where it's meant to be. That we're in Gullus and that we need to get to a higher place. And with this mindset, it'll be very easy to ultimately continue refining the world, bringing Mashiach, may he come speedily in our days. Wishing you a good Shabbos and a Freilich and Purim.